All right, good morning. This is the Beef Brunch News Update for Monday, September the 28th. Today we've got with us Lee Falk over in the northwest part of Louisiana and Vince Desautel down in the central and southwest areas of Louisiana. Y'all have got the B team today, so Dr. Ashley Edwards couldn't be with us, so you're just going to have to put up with the guys today. We'll try to do the best that we can. So to get us started, Lee, if you will, give us a weather and field status update for North Louisiana, and just go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you're recommending for current conditions with ryegrass plantings.
Thank you, Jason. It's good to be with y'all today and everything. Wet would be the word for field conditions right now. We've seen a tremendous amount of rainfall related to the tropical system that moved onshore in Texas and moved its way up. The rainfall amounts are sporadic, I would say, as far as the total amounts. Everybody got rain. I've heard estimates of 2 to 3 inches in some spots. I had one guy tell me this week that he received upwards of 6 inches on his farm. But the key thing is most everybody's got it. It's brought hay production to a grinding halt, I would say. There's a lot of hay that remains to be cut in our corner of the woods, and we're gonna have some consistent dry weather to get that cut. And people are looking forward to this cold front that's approaching, maybe drop humidity down. Everybody's kind of knows that it's kind of a battle against time right now. We're getting in some of this cooler weather, and they know it's getting harder to dry these hay crops down. And to compound it, we've been battling, and we've talked about it on this update several times. We've been battling a lot of crabgrass in hay fields, and so that just makes it worse when you're talking about trying to get that hay dried down. Pasture conditions, though, are great. I've said this before on this news update, and I'm just going to keep on saying it until it's not true. I've never seen our pastures, our grazing pastures, look as good this time of the year as they do right now. It is you got some small pockets that have seen a little bit of dry weather, and some got pretty dry there for a couple of weeks span, but really and truly, the amount of forage out there is just phenomenal. This is not something we're used to in our part of the world. But for every good thing, every good thing there is kind of a downside, and the downside of that large amount of forage out there is we're right smack dab in the middle of ryegrass time, when people should be planning out when they're going to plant the ryegrass, what varieties and everything. They're starting to make some moves that direction. Of course, on your prepared seed beds, nothing is not an issue. We've got some people that are planting prepared seed beds right now, if they can get in their fields to do so. The problem comes in on the overseeding, of course, and sod seeding or drilling the grass in. That large amount of forage, that grass that is built up, those summer grasses that have built up, are really going to make it difficult to get some ryegrass established. I think some folks are going to have to look at some different methods before you get out there and go to overseeding or sod seeding. I think you're going to have to be creative. Potentially look at bush hogging some pastures that ordinarily you would just graze short and then sow your seed, or possibly haying some of these pastures if you can hay them. You may not need to hay. There's not very many people that do, but you may need to get in there and remove some of that forage, some of that grass matter, to try to get that seed down, or else you're setting yourself up in for a mess there. But so those are my recommendations right now. Is you really need to take a close look at prep work before you overseed or sod seed right now. That's the way I see it over in our corner of the world, Jason.
Thank you, Lee, and I will definitely second the words about very good pasture conditions. It's normally whenever folks start getting out on tractors this time of year, you can't hardly see the tractors for the dust. So we have definitely been blessed there. Vince, will you go ahead and give us an update on field conditions down in central and southwest Louisiana, and also y'all are normally a couple of weeks behind us, and in terms of even thinking about ryegrass season. So if you will, just go ahead and let us know where y'all are in that in those cool season plantings as well.
Sure, Jason, and thank you, Jason and Lee, for having me today. It's always a pleasure to bring to you what's going on in our part of the country. But as far as right now, following the tropical storm Beta, we just depending on where you were, as close as we were to it, the eye passed right on top of us as far as the low pressure coming across. What we are today is Friday, I guess Wednesday even into Thursday morning. It passed right on top of us. The low pressure did, but it rained from 0 rain to 6 inches. So just depending on where you were and where you caught one of these outer bands associated with the circulation is what you got. I know generally what I had measured on my farm was about 1 3/4 inches or so, which was ideal for this time of the year with some cooler temperatures. So it's going to be a rain that's going to impact and have a positive impact on what's going to happen going forward. So it just, weather conditions, we've been pretty mild and cool at night and some mild days with a lot of overcast. We have a lot of hay on the ground with anticipation of better weather ahead of Beta coming in onshore. A lot of people got caught with hay on the ground. So there's a lot of that that's going to be wasted or lost. And I mean, some of it will be baled. It'll be very low quality, but it'll get used at some point in time or another. With that being said, weather conditions, anticipation of the cool front coming next week, we'll see some ryegrass starting to be planted in our area. There's a lot of ground prepared as far as prepared seed beds, just waiting on seed. Had a few calls today that, some people are going in with some no-till situations, starting to no-till some in the sod, which that might be a little bit premature as you're waiting on some of those warm season grasses to wind down, I guess, with the cooler weather. But that won't take very long with some forecasted 50s and maybe even some upper 40s in our parts. Things will start to slow down pretty quickly with this front if it holds true as what they're saying. So with that being said, it seems like we're a couple of weeks ahead of schedule as far as the ideal fall conditions, moving into some winter plantings of ryegrass and wheat and possibly some oats in areas where they got some rolling slope on some land. But it's really coming together, and we're anticipating an early fall season. So as far as hay conditions, as I mentioned, we have a lot of hay on the ground, but there still remains a lot of hay to be processed. So we got some of that yet to go. So the next few days, if there's not too much rain come with that front, which is not predicted to be, we should have ideal conditions to go ahead and get some hay made and start planting that ryegrass. So that's about all I have as far as the weather and the ryegrass planting, Jason.
All right, thank you, Vince. Certainly, the shorter day length and the cooler nights are definitely getting ryegrass planting or cool season forages in general. It's certainly getting on everybody's mind. We've talked several times on the news update. Vince has been keeping us updated on some of the issues they've been dealing with, particularly after Hurricane Laura and the widespread mosquito caused deaths that they were having down in that part of the state. And we even saw nothing like what they were experiencing down there, but we even saw some increased populations of mosquitoes up here. So a lot of folks down there worked hard at trying to get some relief, some financial relief to those cattlemen down there in that part of the state. And Vince had given me a little bit of update earlier in the week, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to him. If you will, talk a little bit about the Livestock Indemnity program that's available through Farm Service Agency for some of those mosquito caused deaths. Vince.
Okay, Jason, thank you. It was very questionable because typically that LIP program would not cover any kind of an indemnity payment on livestock, other than livestock being lost from fallen trees or from flooding and that sort of thing. But in this case, they were able to associate the mosquitoes, and the mosquito situation seemed to be isolated to about a 3 or 4 parish area, which included Acadia, Jeff Davis, Evangeline, and into Allen. And as you went out further west and further east, you heard less of a situation. But anyhow, long story short, we got the call earlier this week that it would be at the county committee's discretion by parish or county whether they would review those cases and seek payment for those losses associated with cattle and where they deemed mosquitoes were an issue. In the parish of Evangeline, where I live in, we had roughly estimated about 145 cattle lost to mosquito issues, and even some pen-raised deer. One producer in particular had 100 deer and lost, I think, 13 or 14 head related to mosquitoes where they just couldn't get away from them. So it appears that it's at the discretion of the local county committee to approve those livestock losses for an indemnity payment. So with that being said, if anybody has mosquito-related losses, you may want to consult with your veterinarian and have some proof that you can communicate with your local FSA office to prove those losses, and there may be something for that in a form of a payment for disaster relief. So with that being said, that's going to hopefully that comes to light, and it looks like it will. So that's all I have on that, Jason.
All right, Vince, if you will, give us just a brief update about some of the needs that you're still hearing that our livestock producers and friends to the south are still needing in terms of rebuilding after Hurricane Laura.
You know, it's an overwhelming amount of hay that's being offered for donation, but at this time it doesn't seem as though that hay is a terribly big need at this point. Actually, a lot of cattle have been sold that were displaced from the storm, so that's an unfortunate situation. But even though those cattle have been sold, those guys and producers are going to be going back into the business. So right now, the Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry, Farm Bureau, Louisiana Cattlemen's Association, in conjunction with Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry at their Lacassine location, which would be the old sugar mill at the Lacassine exit south of I-10. That's a distribution site or a collection site, if you would, for fencing materials, hay and feed products, and also some supplement tubs that I'm told were going to be distributed from that point. There is an application process in a 4-parish area. If you are a cattle producer that have those needs for anything related to your fencing material, things that were lost in the storm that would assist you getting back into the business, you can contact the county agent in Calcasieu Parish, which would be Jimmy Moe, or Bradley Pousson in Cameron Parish, and up in Beauregard Parish, Mike Laverne, and for Vernon Parish, that would be Rodney Johnson. And there's an application process for that distribution of those products. So you can see any one of those extension offices in those 4 parishes, and they can get the application to you and filled out. The applications will be taken until September 30th, and then the distribution will start once the applications have been reviewed, so those products can be distributed accordingly. So with that being said, there's still an option for folks that want to donate. So that's always open. So just let us know if you have any need or if you have an option that you would like to donate. We sure would take any donations need be. They have collected a considerable amount of fence posts and wiring at this point. So they'll begin the distribution, I would think, sometime in the middle part of October. That's about all I have, Jason.
All right. Thank you, Vince. Lee, so we got an announcement in the last few days about CFAP 2.0 and how that's going to benefit our livestock producers. So if you will, just let us know what those producers need to be looking out for and what they need to do to get signed up for that 2.0 program with CFAP.
So thanks, Jason. As we've alluded to, we rolled out the CFAP 2.0 program. We remember we talked about CFAP before the first round, where covered some of the losses incurred during market tumult during the coronavirus pandemic. This is the second version of that program, and so it's a little different than what that first program was. During the first program, it was paying for your entire inventory, your cows and calves and bulls and such earlier in the year. This is actually going to cover just your marketable stock. So this is going to be your yearlings, weanling calves, so on and so forth. And you're going to pick your highest inventory days between April 16th and August the 31st. Your highest inventory. The sign up period is September the 21st to December the 11th. The payment's going to be $55 per head. I need to stress again, this excludes breeding stock. This does not include breeding stock. And to sign up, it's going to be just like the first version of CFAB. You're going to need to contact your FSA office. We highly encourage you to go on and make that call right now. Each FSA office is going to handle it differently, just like they handled CFAP differently, different procedures in place due to the coronavirus. So please don't hesitate to go on and make that call to at your local FSA office and get more information on this program. Okay, Jason, that's my brief update on that.
All right, thank you, Lee, and we'll certainly put a link to the USDA's website that'll be highlighting that program. We'll put a link in that to that in the description of the video. So we'll move into our markets for the week ending September the 25th. In the 5-area feeding region, fed steer on the negotiated cash sales side closed the week at 103 to 107. That's about $1 to $3 higher than a week ago. At the time of this recording, October futures were trading up 108, up at 108. So that's $108, $108 a hundredweight. December's up, trading currently at 112. February is down at 115. 5 to 600 pound steers sold between 133 and 139. So that class of cattle is trading about $1 to $2 lower than week ago levels. Our feeder type cattle, so that's those 700 to 800 pound feeder steers, they sold between 120 and 135. So they're also about $1 to $7 lower than the previous week. So on those feeder steer futures, October currently trading down at 142, November down at 142, and January down at 140. Lean cull cows have lost a little bit of ground, which is expected this time of year. Normally we think of fall lows on the cull cow side. They ranged from $28 cents to 57 cents, which is about $2 lower to steady from the previous week. However, normally we do think about, like I said, those fall lows, but we've got a stronger trimmings market. So Australia cattle slaughter is about 35% below year ago levels. So if you're familiar with the Australia cattle industry, that is a very robust industry. And with them being 35% below year ago levels, there's going to be a shortage, or there's going to be less trimmings on the market, on the global market. So if you take those things into consideration, combined with just smaller cull cow supplies, we could see some better cull cow prices this fall than what we historically see. Latest 5-area daily weighted average direct slaughter cattle weekly accumulated dress steer weights showed 967 pounds. So that's those dress steer weights, 967 pounds, which is about 3 pounds heavier than a week ago. But we're still running about 27 pounds over last year. And I guess I would just add that from a fundamental standpoint, beef demand, so the nationwide demand for beef products has performed exceptionally well, considering the havoc that we've seen around the country and the globe over the last several months. So in terms of our beef supply, our beef cattle producers, we are, I guess, we should be happy that we have been seeing an adequate to good supply or good demand of our beef products, considering all the influences. Cattle and calves on feed. So we got the cattle on feed report released on September the 25th. Slaughter market in the United States for feedlots with capacity of 1,000 head or more is what that report reports on. So it totaled 11.4 million head on September the 1st, 2020. That inventory was 4% higher than September 1, 2019. So that appears, if you go back and look at the last cattle on feed report, it seems like this one is continuing to move up. So on our feed stuff, so just about everything is continuing to trade up in terms of feedstuffs. Soybean hulls are even at 105. Soybean meal is up $26 at 351. Corn gluten feed meal is up $32.50 at $517.50. DDGs are $5 higher at $142.50. Cottonseed meal is $10 higher at $260. Whole cottonseed is steady at $210. Rice bran is steady at $100, and corn is trading down slightly, about 2 cents lower at $3.78 a bushel. So, as expected, we're seeing those commodities for our feedstuffs. We're seeing those prices to start trending up. So as we start wrapping up, just to touch on a couple of things, Lee, if you will, just briefly mention the AI class that we've got coming up at the Hill Farm Research Station this coming week, and how people, if we do have anybody interested out there, what they need to do to get in touch with you.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So we are planning a beef cattle artificial insemination course for this week. It'll be Wednesday through Friday at the Hill Farm Research Station in Homer. We still have a couple of spots left available for that. So if you're interested and if you are thinking about getting into AI and incorporating that into your program, just give one of us a call, and we'll get you signed up for it. Time is of the essence, though, so if you hear this and you're interested, please give us a call, and so we can go on and get you the information you need. Thank you, Jason.
All right, thank you, Lee. And just a couple of things. So the Northeast Region Virtual Beef and Forage Field Day videos are available. We'll put a link to those in the description below. And also, I always encourage you to check out LSU Ag Center LSU Ag Center /livestock on YouTube. We've got several good instructional videos on there that you can use at your leisure. So we appreciate y'all joining us today for this Beef Brunch News Update for the weekend in September the 25th, and we hope that you have a good week. Thank you and goodbye.